Welcome into Up in the Rafters, a podcast brought to you by Inside Carolina this college basketball season. I'm Taylor Vippolis hosting this, and as always, joining me, he's a national champion, the Final Four's most outstanding player, a Carolina basketball legend, Joel Berry. Joel, Carolina, don't look now. They are on a 4-game win streak, playing some of their best basketball of the season. We'll talk about it later, about the level of competition that they've played. But overall, what are your thoughts as you're watching Carolina get to March now and playing some of their best basketball?
Yeah, they just look a lot better. It looks like they've adjusted well to the lineups and feeling more comfortable in the lineups. Just being able to know when your minutes are coming, but also playing with the right individuals just gives you a rhythm to your game. And so I think they figured it out. I was it was funny. I was doing the dishes the other day and was putting the dishes in, and I had one dish that was put in the wrong way, and I just turned it, and then it was able to accommodate all the other pieces, all the other dishes. And I was like, this is what Carolina's like. Sometimes it just takes tweaking something, and then it all of a sudden you start seeing it work a lot better. You see the pieces coming together. So this isn't to say, this is the right or wrong way. It just, to me, looking at how they're playing, the rhythm, how guys are looking, they just look a lot more comfortable with the adjustments that have been made.
One of the areas that Carolina has been noticeably better in is on the glass, where they play against Florida State. They out-rebound FSU 35-21. A lot of that could be because of the bigger lineup, but it does seem like this team has kind of flipped a switch in terms of the importance of rebounding and what that could do for them. And that rebounding margin led to 24 second chance points, the most second chance points since the 2022 national championship game for Carolina. What have you seen from this team in maybe kind of realizing, okay, if we're not going to be the best in certain areas, we can control if we're attacking the glass at least?
Yeah, I thought it looked like an old school, Carolina team, what we're used to seeing, guys getting on the boards, getting on the glass, getting those second chance opportunities. To me, I just think it has to do with having a bigger lineup. To your point, you put Jalen Withers at his natural spot and being that 4 spot. You get Drake Powell back to his spot, playing that guard. And it gives you balance. Now you have a taller guy in Jalen Withers being able to get to the boards. And, he's not shooting. I mean, he's shooting the ball better, but his role is, bring the athleticism, bring the scrappiness, the grit, the energy. And so that just sometimes permeates throughout the team. And it just seems like this team, and especially in that Florida State game, they were just getting after it. They were quick to the 50-50 balls. They were making those plays where it could have went FSU's way, but it went Carolina's way because they were just scrapping for the ball. It was one of the plays that stood out to me was when Jalen Withers, I think there was a block or something before the ball. FSU had it, but Carolina was still scrapping, and then all of a sudden he ends up with a layup and one. So it's just like those little plays make the difference. And as we've seen throughout the season, it's been a common theme: close games being lost. It comes down to those small plays, and it just seems like over the course of these 4 games, those small plays have been going Carolina's way.
The other noticeable thing during this 4-game winning streak has been the fact that different players have stepped up to carry the scoring load. You look at the game against UVA, 5 players scored in double figures. In the game against FSU, 6 players scored in double figures. And there was some crossover, but certain games, Elliot Cadeau scores 2 points against UVA. He scores 10 points against FSU. Somebody like Van Allen Lubin scores 10 against FSU. He scores 14 against UVA. There was a good balance where, some players had good games, some players had better games, And then when you go to the next game, it's not always like, hey, these are going to be our top 4 leading scorers. So when you're watching this Carolina team, what have you kind of seen from them the past four or so games where you don't really know who you could assume it's going to be RJ at the top for the most part, just because of the shot volume that RJ gets. But in terms of like the 3 through like 6 leading scorers can change on a night-to-night basis.
Yeah, it can. And I'm looking at RJ Davis, and I think this is the least amount of shots that he has taken to get 20 points. Usually it's like, somewhere in the double digits, but I mean, he was 9 shots, and for 20 points. The thing that stood out to me, and to your point, just being able to have the balance, one, that going into each game, it could be Seth Trimble, it could be RJ Davis, it could be Ian Jackson being the leading scorer. Like that makes it difficult for other teams to be able to scout what you're going to do, because now they have to respect that, any of these guys could be the leading scorer. But that also goes to looking at, okay, they got 32 field goals, but 18 of those were assisted. So what has stood out to me is that a lot of their shots are coming off really good ball movement. The ball isn't sticking as much. We've seen Vin Allen Lubin, his energy, his effort, his production has gone up. And I think he's had more dunks in these 4 games than he's had all season long. And it's because the ball is moving. So they've done a really good job of just something seems to click now, that like getting that ball moving, everyone feeling the touch of the ball just has helped this team. And you look at like Jalen Withers, 11, Seth Trimble coming off the bench, 17, Jalen Washington, 10. Like, that's the type of production you need when you really don't have, the RJ and Ian are the only ones that can really make one-on-one. You got to use other guys.
And I think a testament to how well this team is playing the past couple of games, you could also point at somebody like Cade Tyson, who we talked about at times looked unplayable early in the season, and now he can play in the Florida State game and get 14 minutes, score 6 points, contribute off the bench. When it comes to somebody like Cade Tyson, or even players on the bench for this North Carolina team that maybe necessarily aren't playing starting minutes, most of your career at Carolina, you were playing starter type minutes, even if you weren't starting in the game. But how hard is it for these players to come off the bench, get in a rhythm when you aren't maybe playing, 25, 30 minutes, and you kind of have to find your success in a lot smaller windows?
Yeah, I mean, well, we saw what he did. They were all hustle plays, getting in, just trying to contribute with the energy. That's what you have to do, because the ball might not find you for an open shot. He took a couple of open shots, but all of his points came off of just giving great energy. And that's what happens sometimes. You get in there, you don't play as much. Now you get a little fire up under your butt because you've gotten a loose ball, or you scrapped and got a ball and finishing it in the paint. That gets you going, but that also gets the team going. And so I think that just having that type of energy off the bench, especially when you haven't had the minutes to necessarily get in the rhythm, it's important. Look, I was in that role my freshman year. It was sort of similar to how he is being in his first year in the program. Like, you're trying to find yourself. The best way to find yourself sometimes is just get out there and compete. And when you compete, sometimes the juices just get flowing. And then all of a sudden, what you've been searching for ends up showing up. So I thought he played really well, especially given his situation and not playing a lot of minutes.
Final thing from this FSU game before we take a look at other things in the Carolina basketball program. The leading scorer in the game, RJ Davis, 20 points. He moved into sole possession of 3rd place on the ACC's all-time scoring list, passing Johnny Dawkins. Only players in front of him, Tyler Hansbrough, JJ Redick. It's kind of surreal when you see that graphic Psycho T, JJ, and RJ Davis.
Yeah.
Obviously, RJ had the fifth year, the benefit of the fifth year. He trails JJ Redick by 177 points. If Carolina can make it into the tournament, if Carolina can make some kind of run in the ACC tournament, all of a sudden, with the way that RJ is just a natural scorer, you could potentially be looking at Psycho T, RJ Davis, top two in ACC basketball history. But what were your thoughts when you see RJ Davis take third place in the ACC all-time scoring list?
It's impressive. I know he did it in 5 years, but to me, you still got to lace him up. You still got to go out on the court and compete and produce at a high level. And regardless, he'll be up there forever. And when you look at some of the folks that he has passed, and look at the two guys that are in front of him, it's an honor, man, just to be in that conversation. It's like me when I look up in the rafters, I think about all the people that have come through the program that aren't up there and that have so many great players. And just to be in the presence of those people hanging up there, which he will, I guess he will be my my buddy up in the rafters. So nice to have him up there. And then it's good to see his name pop up on the list, man. I got to give him his flowers. Hats off to him. I know the season hasn't gone well, but it doesn't take away from what he has done in that Carolina jersey, especially through all the ups and downs that this program has had over the last couple of years. So congratulations, young fella, and thankful I can be hanging next to him forever if they keep the Dean Dome in the same place.
Is there like a Rafters like group chat? Like maybe you're the one who invites them into the Rafters group chat?
No, but I would like to have the tradition of, like, if you're up there and that someone that will be next to you is going up there, to be able to give them the trophy at like the halftime or whatever when they come back. Be pretty cool.
Okay, yeah, I do like that. That's something that seems pretty easy that Carolina could do.
Yeah, we could do that. I think that'd be a nice little. Hey, we're modernizing what's going on. It'll be a nice little new tradition.
and it gets you a free trip to Chapel Hill.
Always, and to get back on the court. So
we talked about how this has been the best basketball this North Carolina team has played this season. Are you of the opinion that a corner has turned for this team, or this is more a benefit of a weaker schedule? Because when you look at the teams Carolina has beat in this 4-game win streak, Florida State, the highest ranked team on KenPom, 88th. Virginia, 98th. NC State, 113th. And then Syracuse, 121st. So how do you kind of balance? Yes, this Carolina team is playing better, but the teams that they're beating, they're not a ton of teams that you're running to write home about.
Yeah, I mean, first off, you still have to get out there and you play the game. Two of those teams play a very unorthodox style in Florida State and Virginia. Virginia slowing the ball down, playing those long possessions. Florida State's one of those teams where, they fluctuate because they could be on one game. They could be like against Wake Forest where they score 50 points in the second half. They also did it against Louisville, and they were in that game too. So you also have to look at, like, those teams have been in big games. NC State beat Wake Forest, which is at the top of the conference. So putting it in that perspective, I realize that they are the bottom teams, but you still got to go out there and play the games. So I would say, like, okay, if you don't want to look at the competition, look at how they're playing. Look at the rhythm. Look at RJ Davis looking like he's comfortable in what he's doing. Look at how Drake Powell is a lot more comfortable just moving over from the 4 to the 3 spot, where he can, play make a little bit more and be in his natural position. That's what I've been looking at. So I don't necessarily worry about the competition. Just look at the rhythm. Look at how the guys have been playing well with one another. The lineup changes that Coach Davis and the staff have made and the guys have adjusted to it well.
Yeah, this 4-game win streak has kind of been a control what you can control if you're this North Carolina team, because if North Carolina loses to any of those teams, they're
done.
They're done. Their season's over.
Yeah.
And as it stands right now, depending on where you're looking, North Carolina is either in the first 4 in or the first 4 out. Somewhere they're teetering on that bubble line right now. And when you're looking at where this North Carolina team is about to play, Miami 190th, it's not going to do a ton to help your bubble argument if you beat them. And then you have Virginia Tech, who's 147th in KenPom. So mostly if I'm the committee and I'm trying to judge where this North Carolina team is, I think I'm confident in keeping North Carolina squarely on the bubble these next 2 games. Obviously, if they lose to Miami or Virginia Tech, again, they're most likely out. But I'm waiting to see how this North Carolina team plays against Duke. If they're competitive against Duke, I don't think they need to beat Duke. But if they're competitive against Duke, I would lean towards having them in the tournament field and kind of giving them a pass for being, 1 in 11 or 1 in 12 in quad 1 games. But if Duke does run them out of their own building this time, then it's going to be a lot harder to kind of see where this North Carolina team slots in the field with only 1 quad 1 win. And then it goes, they still have to play the ACC tournament. So that's a whole other thing. But how are you kind of looking at these next 3 games for North Carolina in terms of where they are on the bubble?
I'm looking at it the same way that you are. Look, you take care of business against the teams that you're supposed to beat. You can't take them for granted. The other day we saw a Virginia Tech team that almost beat Louisville. So, like I said, this is a lot of teams are clawing and scratching for something a little bit different. That's the first time ever in ACC, and that the last 3 teams don't go to the ACC tournament. So when you look at these bottom teams, they're not worried about the NCAA tournament. They're worried about getting in so that when we get to the ACC tournament, their season is not done. So you got to take care of those games, and you can't take it for granted. As far as the Duke game, part of that, what the committee is looking at, they're also looking at eye tests. Like, does Carolina look better? And I think that if they can go into that game, say if it's a close game, then it's like, okay, that's a lot different than how they were the first matchup. And also they're coming off a 4, or that would be a 6-game win streak, or so it would be, you're looking at them like, okay, are they trending in the right direction? Keeping in mind one of the hardest non-conference schedules. So it's not like that 1 in 10 is a cupcake. So I look at it the same way that you do. Obviously, you want to win that game against Duke, but you take care of what you need to take care of. That way, when you're sitting looking at the selection Sunday, you're like, we did everything that we could, and that's all you can do.
Yeah, that Duke game, you can kind of go ahead and circle it now as a measuring stick game to see actually how much this team has grown since those previous Duke and Clemson losses, where it just did not look good for North Carolina. I was looking at the ACC standings when you were talking. Poor season for Miami. It's been through a lot. It's been a rough year. Larinaga stepping down. The rare announcement mid-season that they're hiring a coach coaching at Duke right now as an assistant coach, and then
they don't have their 2 best players.
The next week, Jay Lucas has to go to the Watsco Center and play at Miami. So just a weird situation all around. And then one of the teams projected to miss the ACC tournament right now would actually be 4-13 NC State, the defending champs of said tournament. It would be weird to have an ACC tournament without the defending champs. But if there was ever going to be a team that won't be there to defend their title. It just makes too much sense that it's NC State.
It's pretty wild. And it just goes to show how crazy times are. Where I mean, it wasn't like they were, off the walls before the ACC tournament. They just caught lightning in a bottle and just did what no one has done since UConn. But yeah, pretty crazy.
Quick break so we could remind everybody about our friends over at Johnny T-Shirt. If you're going to be in Chapel Hill, you could visit Johnny T-Shirt on Franklin Street. And if not, no worries. You could go online to johnnytshirt.com. They have everything that the Carolina fan could possibly want. The hats, the T-shirts, the jerseys, you name it, they've got it. I'm on their website right now. They are always running a bunch of great sales. They are currently having a bunch of Carolina baseball gear in their store. The Carolina baseball jerseys, beautiful.
Beautiful. And it goes along with the fact that they are on fire right now.
Yeah. So you have a great baseball team. You have an even better looking jersey. Although I think you could debate, is the team better or is the jersey better? But I'm just looking at that jersey right now, and it's like the jersey just makes everything look better too.
Yeah.
But Johnny T-Shirt, it's great people, great customer service, and don't forget, Inside Carolina premium subscribers save 10% off their orders. All right, we are going to take questions from people that asked them on Instagram when we put them out. Appreciate everybody for asking. We kind of did get to people's main question this week. Is Carolina going to make the NCAA tournament? So we could check that box off for the hundreds of fans that ask that question every week. But the first question comes from WBOUNC. And Joel, he asks, what are your thoughts on Hubert Davis getting a contract extension?
Yeah, I think to me, there's no right or wrong answer for this. I obviously think that Coach Davis is up for, is fit for the job. It's up to him and Bubba Cunningham to be on the same page to see the vision moving forward. And like I said, I like the hire. And the reason why is because I'm looking at what he has done. Taylor, I really do think a lot of people don't realize how hard it is to get to a national championship. And not only to do it, but to get there in your first year. So he's done NCAA championship. He's had coach of the year, regular season champs. Now you ask the question, what do we need to do moving forward to sustain that type of success? And I think that with moving forward with a GM, with getting things in place around the program to allow the program to do what they need to do to attract top talent, whether that be high school, portal, that's what's important. So I think when you're looking at Coach Davis, he has what he needs as far as the on-court. We've seen it before. Now it's getting the things that are going on in this crazy world of college basketball to be able to bring more success. And I would just say, look at what happened. Look what's happening to Kansas. The Blue Bloods aren't able to sustain just by being a blue blood anymore. You got to have people around the program. You got to have things in place. You have to modernize your program to adjust to these times. So it's not just Carolina. And that's what I would tell people to look at. Don't just look at Carolina. This is going on all around the country. We have more parity in college basketball than ever nowadays.
Yeah, the other thing with this contract extension that I think might confuse some fans because it felt like it kind of came out of nowhere. This wasn't a case of Carolina having a down season, struggling, and Bubba Cunningham going to Hubert Davis and being like, hey, we want to extend your contract. As Inside Carolina reported when it was happening, this contract extension was essentially agreed upon last summer with UNC coming off a season where they were the 1 seed and won the ACC regular title. But yeah, it's going to be interesting for Hubert Davis as this season closes out because we've said it, this is a top 5 job in all of college basketball, and the head coach should be a reflection on that. And if Carolina does miss the tournament this year, missing the tournament in 2 of your 4 years, even though you did go to a national championship, wouldn't really reflect where the Carolina program should be going. And I think we'll talk about, the next question is actually about the GM, but that's what I'm most interested in seeing, is how the next person constructs this Carolina roster. Because for me, when I'm watching Hubert Davis over these past 4 years, it feels like things have to be aligned almost perfectly, maybe not perfectly, but almost perfectly, for Carolina to get to contender. And if things aren't aligned like that, you have a season like this season, or you have the season like where Carolina was the preseason number 1 and missed the tournament altogether. And I think that's really the only hang up for me, where you look at the coaches that are in the top 10 right now, the Bruce Pearls, the Rick Barnes, the Kelvin Sampsons, Nate Oates, even Rick Pitino. I think you could drop those guys off at almost any Power 4 school with the resources that those schools are giving them. And they might not be national title contenders, but they're going to find a way to be contenders, which is what I really want to see from North Carolina in Hubert Davis, with the hire of Jim Tanner, where if Carolina is not a national title contender, North Carolina should still be a big enough brand where they are a perennial top 25 team. And especially in a down year like the ACC is having right now, asking North Carolina to be a top 20, top 25 team doesn't feel like the craziest of asks in this new landscape of college basketball. All right, let's take a quick break so I can remind everybody about our friends over at Congruity. Congruity is the leading provider for Tar Heel business owners, payroll, HR, and employee benefit needs. Inside Carolina listeners can get a free payroll and HR assessment by emailing Matt at Congruity. Email is matt@congruityhr.com. That email again is matt@congruityhr.com. All right, let's get back to the episode. That leads perfect to the next question. Cade Myers, 13. Joel, what do you think of the GM hire? And for the people that haven't been paying attention, the GM hire a 1990 UNC graduate, Jim Tanner, who is the founder and president of Tandem Sports and Entertainment.
Yeah, Jim was my agent when I played, so I know him personally. First and foremost, you're dealing with people in this basketball, whatever it is. So first and foremost is getting someone that is good people, and Jim is that. Secondly, his track record it speaks for itself. He's signed. I think I saw it. He signed over $1 billion in contracts. Has had some of the top players in the NBA. Signing them the contract. So now you're getting someone who understands how to negotiate. You get someone who has seen talent, and you're able to know when something is overvalued, when something is undervalued. All those things that come with being an agent, you're getting that. And then lastly, you're getting someone who is an alum, someone who takes pride in his job, who takes pride in seeing Carolina get back to the Carolina basketball that we all know. To your point, Taylor, it's not a lot asking or expecting Carolina to be in the top 25. And that's why I said, we know it can be done, but how can we do it at a level where it's sustainable each and every year, where it's not so much fluctuation? And I think now you get Jim Tanner in, allow him to negotiate the contracts, do all of that stuff, and allow Coach Davis to be the coach and the person who he is. Because now you're taking away, Coach Davis is able to just have real conversations with the players without also have to go in and put on the hard hat and have hard conversations, which there will still be that, but from a money perspective. We all know how we get when the money is in place. So this gives that opportunity. I'm excited about the hire. Like Coach Davis said, got to get away from the traditional ways. This is the start, and I think it will be it'll be a good one.
Yeah, there were some concerns initially in the GM search where the emphasis seemed to be on that the person had to have ties to either Carolina basketball or Carolina, where it's like the job is such a prestigious one, just hire the best person available. So when Carolina hires Jim Tanner, it feels like it does check two boxes. One, it's a person who's probably overqualified for the job in the experience that he has, founding and running his own agency with $1 billion worth of contracts. Vince Carter was a client, Tim Duncan was a client.
Yep.
And it also checks the box of somebody that gets what Carolina is about and what Carolina wants to be, where you don't have to necessarily go out of the Carolina family to get a qualified candidate. But yeah, I have this note. He has represented 40 first-round NBA draft picks, 17 Tar Heels. Vince Carter, yourself, Wayne Ellington, Sean May, Raymond Felton, Tyler Hansbrough, John Henson, Justin Jackson, Luke May, Marvin Williams, and Brandon Wright are among the former UNC players to work with Tanner. What led you to choose him as your agent, and how much did those names that I just mentioned kind of help that decision and kind of guide you towards somebody that people that you trusted him?
Yeah, well, Coach Williams, to me, I trusted him coming into Carolina. And Coach Williams recommended me to Jim Tanner, and my family and I sat down, and they walked us through it. And I think the biggest thing for me, and I've always been this way, is I want to be around and I want to be represented by good people who have integrity, who do it the right way, who's not trying to take shortcuts, because that's most important. When things hit the fan, you want to have people that you can call on, that you can know that's going to go to bat for you. And that's what Jim Tanner did for me in my career. And I know it was a short one, and I didn't have I'm just thankful to be being listed with some of those guys as being represented by Tandem. And so for me, that's what's most important. That's why I started off with him being a good person. And as long as him and Coach Davis are aligned, and getting this thing rolling, they will be successful, because to your point, he's represented some of the guys that are 40 first round picks. Come on. If I'm a player, I'm looking at that like, okay, he can get me to that next level.
Carolina will be back in action this Saturday, March 1st, a noon tip-off from the Smith Center against Miami. And then they have the Saturday to Tuesday turnaround where they go to Blacksburg to play Virginia Tech on March 4th, Tuesday, 7 p.m. tip-off. We will be back next week to break it all down. Joel, man, appreciate the time as always, and appreciate everybody watching and listening.
Yes, sir. Go Heels.